So today, hello everybody. I'm joined today by Helen Ellis. Helen's book of being a distant grandparent is launched. It's exciting. Thank you, Helen, for joining me. I'm super excited to talk to you today.
Thank you, Robin. It's an absolute privilege, and thank you for inviting me.
I just feel that it's such a topic that people don't address, and it's so important, and it's one of those things that they do address once it's too late, and they could make lives easier for everybody if they dealt with these things before they leave home.
Yes, that's right. I mean, if someone's thinking of moving countries or moving across their country, there's so many things to think about.
Yeah.
And selling houses and jobs and all these things, and they take a lot of space, and it sort of feels like, well, look, I don't even want to think of that problem now. But
Yes.
We're here just to say, hey, it's probably a good idea to think about that issue a little bit earlier than later, because it can make a big difference down the track. And that's what we want to do today.
Absolutely. So thank you to everybody who's joining us and watching us. My name's Robin from Personnel Relocations. And as I said, I'm joined by Helen Ellis. Helen's based in New Zealand and I'm based in, where am I? I'm in Melbourne. So it's been one of those days. Helen, thank you so much for sending me a preview of the book, and I absolutely loved reading it. There was a few things that really resonated with me. And I think the first one was the idea that it's the middle generation. So maybe let's just backtrack a little bit, Helen, if you want to talk about the three books and the three generations, and then maybe I can go into what resonated with me, because I think it needs to be put in perspective a little bit.
That's a good idea. Well, just to explain, I am a distance grandparent and a distant parent, and I've been that person for a long time. Three of our four children, I've got a blended marriage, 3 of our 4 children live in England and 2 in America, and 5 of our 6 grandchildren are spread over those countries as well. And I'm a step parent, so I've been doing this for a long time. And when I realized that there was nothing out there to help the distance grandparents like me, because I felt that it was a lonely space for them, and I've done research at university, I've done my master's on the subject, I decided a book needed to be written because there was this huge void. So at first I thought I would write about being a distance grandparent, but it wasn't long before I realized that there are 3 parts to a distance family generational story. There's the distance grandparents at home. There's a distant son and daughter, your adult children who've decided to move somewhere for whatever reason, and it's their children. And we each experience this event in different ways. And we all kind of think, oh yeah, we know what it's like for the other. And in many respects we do, but there's some subtle things that we all don't quite understand. So from thinking I would write 1 book, I have now got myself a job to write 3. So I've done the first one, being a distance grandparent. And over the next year or so, I'm going to write being a distance son or daughter and being a distance grandchild. And all the books have a subtitle of a book for all generations. So what does that mean? What it means is we all have to read all books, because we don't know exactly how it is. And I know that this is powerful because even for the likes of Robin, who's a very experienced expat, very familiar in the circles, she has learned things about how it is for her folks at home that she hadn't thought about before. So if we all understand each other better, that generates empathy. And empathy is good within distance families. So this is my humongous task. I'm an intergenerational empathy generator. So this is
a lot of big words.
So my passion and goal is to help distance families understand each other better.
Yeah,
that's my
I
goal.
think you connecting the dots between the generations and across the globe.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And with global families becoming such a bigger part of everybody's lives, it is something we all just need to be aware of. And as you say, even in the book where you talk about the gatekeepers, the gate openers and the gate closers, And sometimes we don't realize that. And when you've got blended families, and there's just so many different dynamics now, that it's important to understand each person's perspective. And I think in the book where you talk about, just saying things that, I'm the daughter, I'm the distant daughter. And sometimes I've been away from my parents for 27 years now, and I didn't think much about phoning them and saying I'm pregnant. I just did it. But I didn't think much about how that might sit with them. Yes, they were very happy, as they always are, but they would have had the real sadness about them. And I didn't even think that far. I was just excited to say, I'm pregnant. Yeah.
And that's understandable.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
Yeah. But just understanding and being more aware of the other generation. And the other interesting, although I'm the distant parent, all three of my parents' grandchildren live here in Australia. So none of them, they don't have any grandchildren with them. So we're fortunate that we are all together, but it's another family dynamic. It's interesting.
It is. And what's good for them back home is that they know that you're down the road or in the next suburb or whatever. And that's a different dynamic for your package. And so it's very hard to lump everybody in together. And often I get asked, what is the best thing to do? And I feel, well, it depends. It depends on the relationship. It depends on the situation. It depends on how long you've been away. It depends. There's so many depends.
And it all comes down to clear communication and as you say, empathy. Communication is everything. And I think the other thing I found really interesting in your book was the fact that it's always the older generation, the grandparents, that have to make do. They're always the ones that have to, put up with holidays when they can have the holidays, or seeing the grandchildren and the children when they can. It revolves around that middle generation's lifestyle and what can be done. And even when there are visits, again, it's, nap times for the children, and the grandparents are always the ones that have to say, okay, that's all right, I'll wait my turn. No,
that's absolutely correct. And I mean, at the moment, of course, with COVID, nobody's going anywhere, or hardly. And that's a really challenging for us all. But yes, no, it is correct that everybody's got to work in. You've got school holidays, Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere situations. Some are at the different time. There's no way that my American grandkids or my English can come and have an extended holiday in New Zealand at summertime. They've only got 2 weeks of school, Christmas, New Year. That's it. They can never have a summer here. It's always a winter.
And I should imagine they can't all be together. Do you ever have reunions where you're all together?
No, we have family that never met. In fact, my grandchildren in England, who are 18 and 21, have never been to New Zealand.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. So different dynamics in every family. And then I have 2 little ones in the States. The younger one has come here as like a 15-month-old, but so the first one came as a 15-month-old, and the younger one has never been here yet because of COVID. So they've never ever been. In fact, the last time our 4 kids were together, was 2009 for one night.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
So reunions are just
too hard. And that was really interesting in the book. I've always been interested in what connects people, and even when I'm interviewed as a relocation person, especially if I'm interviewed in South Africa, they'll say to me, what do you miss about South Africa? And I miss my family, and I miss food. There's certain foods that I really liked. And that came through in the book as well, is when your families are together, it's food that brings you together very often. And it's those senses. It's all the different senses. You talked about the smells, the noise, but being a good listener at the same time. It's using all those senses of listening, smelling, food, tasting, seeing things. I loved the book. It was so insightful. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to write all that and research it, and all the people and tears that you must have shed during interviews.
Oh, there were lots of tears. Well, not in the interviews, but there were lots of tears along the way. I would have my proofreader send me a message. Oh, I cried last night. And the editors. And often I would sit here in this room and read a paragraph again and have to wipe my eyes.
Oh,
and I just think, well, you know, we're showing our vulnerability, and that's important. You know, when I think about, even now, if I think about the fingerprints on my glass sliding doors that I didn't clean when the 15-month-old left for a while, you know, I thought, oh, I think I'll just leave those fingerprints there, thanks very much. Or the stray sock under the couch cushion that didn't quite get to the washing machine or the suitcase. And what do you do with that? First thing is you put it to your nose.
Oh,
so you know, they linger. Sweet. Even when they come and go, they linger.
Yes. Yes. Oh, so, beautiful.
Yeah, there's been a few tearful moments. I gave up on that one, but that's okay. You know, it means that for distance grandparents, they don't feel alone, and they feel there are other people who have these feelings, because we all go about our lives, you know, go about our social lives, everything here as normal. Yes. And our distant grandparent part of us is this other person that most of our friends and family really don't kind of understand about us. Yes. So we live it in a different sort of sphere. That makes sense. Yeah, it's a secretive world.
Absolutely.
It's a private world.
Yes, completely. And it's, you know, you're working in the office and people talking about spending time with their parents or what they've done for the weekend, and you sort of think, oh, I was in a coffee shop once, and there was a mother and daughter, a similar age to myself and what my mother would be, and I would give anything to sit in a coffee shop with my mom, and yet this daughter was being so rude to her mother, and I just felt like saying to her, just don't do that, that's so nasty, and just, oh, my heart bled, you know. There's those little things that creep up on you, aren't there, that catch you out sometimes.
Definitely. And I think you know, relating it to things that have happened in the last few days or weeks here in New Zealand and Australia, we've opened a travel bubble. Yes. And now we can fly back and forth. So we've all watched the news, and we've all watched all these families at the airport, and we're very pleased for them, and we're delighted for them that they've all connected. Yeah. But the rest of us sit here and wait. And we have no idea. So it's all relative. Everybody's situation is what it is for them. Yeah. And I'm pleased for them that you know, these others are reunited.
Well, I'm pleased that you're opening. Yeah. And I'm pleased that you're opening people's eyes to these things, you know, to be that little bit more aware of those around them. One of the other things I really wanted to chat to you about, and I know we've had a bit of discussion about this offline, is what people can do in advance before they leave. Because, you know, you could take my situation where I left so many years ago, and things have changed. You know, when I left South Africa, there wasn't any Skype, there wasn't WhatsApp. I was in England, I would go and buy the phone card, you know, and use the phone card, or I could send emails and things, but nothing was instant, you know. And I've lost that contact, or those ideas of what people can do and what I can do now in advance. But not what I can do in advance, but what I can catch up with now. But I think for a lot of the people that are moving, it would be really nice if you could just give them some hints and tips of what they could do in advance before they leave their home country to prepare their grandparents. And I know we can talk about that forever because we keep coming up with new ideas.
Could give you a big long list, but I mean, all I can say is it's fantastic that you start thinking about it earlier, because I know your brain is full of all sorts of things, and it's like you just don't need that as well. But trust me, whatever you do now, it's going to smooth things down the track. The first thing I would suggest is, even if you don't know that you're going for sure, but it's kind of on the horizon, is talk about it with your parents and grandparents. If you decide to tell them when it's all organized and the decision is made, they may never forgive you.
Right.
This is a big shock.
Right. Okay.
Plant a seed, plant a seed, plant a seed. You know, you're better to say, hey, we've been thinking. It's a big plan. We don't know. We can't be sure, but this is what we're thinking. Okay. Allow them time to grieve. If you don't go, that's fine. But if you do go, they've had time to grieve, time to think about it, time to look around at all their friends who are also distance grandparents and realizing they're going to maybe join that club. and it gives them time. So I really recommend that. If you're a couple, you need to be together. You need to be on the same page with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be tested many, many, many times in ways you don't quite know yet. Yeah. Good ways, bad ways, so be on the same page. Practical things you can do is start to think about now how the time zone change will affect you wherever you are potentially moving to. And suggest to your parents and grandparents that you start some sort of routine. Often, I find it's really common that we have what we call soft communication routines. It means that, give or take, most Sunday nights or most Sunday mornings or a time like that, you tend to catch up by video. Okay. Start to think about how it might work for you. Right. If your parents will always go to church on Sunday night, well, that's out of the question. But just start thinking now and get the clock out and figure out what is the likely time of the day that you're going to be calling them, and start a routine. Get into a rhythm. Start always ringing them at that time already, and then start ringing them by WhatsApp or, Zoom or Skype or some other way. I found I did that with my mother, for example, during COVID. She only lives 10 minutes down the road. I always just rang her with a phone, even just a landline, not even a mobile. Yeah. I started FaceTiming her. Fantastic. We're doing it all the time now. That's the only way I ring her. So start that little routine, because then they're in a rhythm. They understand all the technology. Delegate. It is not all your job to be the communicator. This is where your children, if they are smart enough to connect with their friends via devices, they are smart enough to connect with their grandparents. Yes. And they also can start those one-on-one conversations. I have just one grandchild here, and I have done loads of miles, picking her up from school, daycare, taking her swimming lessons or whatever. We have fabulous conversations in the car. In fact, I have the best conversations in the car. Yes. So think ahead now of the conversations that your children, those one-on-one conversations your children could be having with their grandparents, and get the rhythm going now. Yes. Tell them, this is what our family does. Every month, I want to know that you have had a one-on-one chat with your grandparent or grandmother or grandfather, or whatever, and get that going now. And you've got that rhythm. So when you're away, the communication with your family is not all up to you. Yes, setting that expectation. As a family. Yeah. And don't think that group calls are going to solve it. It's those one-on-one conversations that keep the relationships going. Yes. And I think as a parent, where you were talking in the book about gatekeepers and gate openers and gate closers, and I think we as parents have to be not only managing that, but also giving the children the tools to be able to do that. My kids, I know they would say, well, what am I going to talk to them? And grandparents, they don't mind if you talk about how you walk the dog. They just want that communication. Yeah, exactly. And the grandparents will willingly take advice. Tell them to buy a book of riddles. Tell them to, drum up on the latest dinosaurs so they can talk about what a Tyrannosaurus Rex is or whatever. Tell them what to do, and they will go and do the homework. Yes. And it will evolve. And I remember having a conversation once with a distant daughter whose children were then talking with their cousins back home. And she would overhear these conversations of absolute dribble, and it concerned her that they weren't sort of talking, having a sensible conversation. Yeah. But she realised they would probably talk dribble if they were at home in country. So let them just talk dribble, and that's good. Absolutely. At least they're talking. It doesn't have to be profound. Just as it is. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And there's so many things that they can do even online. There's so many games you can do now. You could play Scrabble, you could do word searches, Candy Crush, you can join with family members and all those things. So, there's, I think, and it's obviously has to be age appropriate, but there's a lot that you could do. Exactly. There's so many different platforms. Honestly, you could spend all day doing things. I've put some of them on the resources page of my website. There's a section there for digital resources. Okay. So there's quite a few there if you want to have a little research and find out what you could do there. Another technical thing is for the distant son or daughter who's leaving to install Team Viewer on their parents' devices or computer. TeamViewer is a wonderful program. I use it myself, and it means that your computer guru person can go to your computer online and fix something. So I have a computer fix-it man who lives, 20 minutes drive from my house, and I can save a whole lot of driving time by giving him the password on a TeamViewer, and he can go in and move around and fix something.
Yes.
So, and once again, test it before you leave. Make sure they understand about how to get that password and how to email it. And
Yes.
But it's magic, absolute magic, to have this person come and fix whatever needs to be
exactly
fixed.
and I know with my mom, she's probably got 5,000 photos on there and videos and that are automatically saving from WhatsApp, and then the device isn't working properly because there's no memory left. So if you can get access to that device and delete all those things for her or show her how to do it, it would make everybody's lives a lot easier.
Yes, all those things all done so that they are. You want all this to be second nature for your parents and grandparents by the time you leave, not something they're tackling while they're, coping with this new void.
Yes.
And they'll be pleased. They'll be pleased they've learned.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they want the communication there. So they're going to be open to anything. And, if you've got older children that are a bit more tech savvy and maybe a little bit, teenage awkwardness, that's a great job for them to do with the grandparents before they leave.
Oh, absolutely. Because, as long as you tell them to be patient.
Yes.
And don't be surprised if they get asked the same thing a few times.
Yes.
Write it down. We all do it. I've got post-it notes on my monitor as well.
Yes.
And, but, a wonderful way to bond. I think it's just fantastic. I really miss my IT department children who are around the world. I wish they were here sometimes.
Yeah. And I think also, when we're talking about managing expectations, there's also the expectation for the grandparents of what the first few weeks are going to look like for the family when they arrive. They might be in temporary accommodation. They're going to be house searching. I think the grandparents can get quite nervous in the first few weeks. I haven't heard from them much. They said they're going to phone every Sunday, and I haven't heard from them. It's been 3 weeks now, so it's just, I think managing those expectations is important as well. And forewarning the grandparents that this is what it's going to look like. It sounds obvious, but they don't always think about it when it's happening.
No, that's exactly right. I think the hardest weeks are the first few for the grandparents and the parents, because they've, they may be cleaning up some of the messes at your home, disposing of the last whatever rubbish and running around. Oh, I forgot to do whatever. So I don't know that there's a simple, foolproof way to get through those weeks other than just every day, just send a little text or something. And I mean, even I just thought of something now, write a card and post it the day before you fly out, so it arrives in their letterbox a few days later. Just little things, just to say, I know you must be anxious. It's absolutely mayhem here, but we're getting there. Those first few weeks are very hard for the people who've moved, and they're very hard for the people who've stayed behind. And we've just got to get through them. Once they know you've got somewhere to live and the job's okay and the kids are at school and they're happy, they will feel happier, just in the same way that those who have moved are anxious. So
exactly.
There is no obvious easy way out on that one, but it's good to be aware of it. It's good to know it exists.
And that's what your book does. It makes people aware of those things and just how the other might be thinking. And I think it's always important for the grandparents to have some sort of idea of when they will see you again. If the son or daughter is in the position that the company flies them back to the home country every year, make sure you tell the grandparents that, we're going to be settling in, but we can come back every year. Those things seem obvious to us, but the grandparents just need that reassurance, even if it's something obvious. Yes, no,
exactly.
You mentioned your resources page just now, and I know we were talking about a few things, activities like doing portraits of each other, as bonding exercises, and you mentioned your resources page just now. What sort of other things might you have on your resources page that people could be interested in?
I've saved an awful lot of articles. There's a lot of wisdom there, and just skim through all the titles, they'll all make sense. There's some podcasts. There's a wonderful distance family podcast. There's actually very little out there for distance family or distance grandparents especially. like zero. I know everybody, and there's literally just a handful, but there's a very good podcast, and if you've never done podcasts, give it a go.
Okay.
I have a Facebook page. It's just for Distance Grandparents. It's a private page.
Okay.
And I put content there that's quite different from what I might put somewhere else. I have a Facebook page just for distance families where there's just all sorts. It can be anybody on it, and articles and what's happening with my books, that sort of thing. So
and where is your book?
Where
is your book going to be available? Where can people around the world?
Right. Okay, here it is. This is
all shiny and new. Look at that.
Shiny and new.
That's so exciting.
It's my only copy. The book is available on all the normal global platforms, as in the Amazons and the Barnes and Nobles. It is available by ebook or Kindle and a paperback. So if you're in America or Canada, obviously Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all these places you can order from. South Africa right now is a little bit trickier, but keep an eye out for loot.co.za.
Yes.
It's a little bit slow, but it will be there eventually. Yes. The listing has been submitted and it will be there.
Okay, great.
And also you can do a Kindle or an ebook version, which is much
and of course
easier.
the UK, France, anywhere that Amazon's available, they'll all have it.
Yes, and anyone, if you happen to be listening from New Zealand, in a few weeks' time they will be in the bookshops. Plus, if
that's
you go
exciting.
I know.
I want to see a picture of you standing in the bookshop next to your book. Oh, that's exciting.
Yes, they'll be in bookshops, and also if you go to my website under shop, there I've put the best online site to go to in New Zealand specific. So, because I find with my book is that the grandparents would like to own a copy, but maybe the distant son or daughter want to give a copy to them.
Yes,
so there's
lovely.
a lot of thinking about how I can order it in other countries.
Right.
So do go to the shop page of my website, because where I can find a country specific online source, I've listed it just to save a whole lot of postage and unnecessary traveling.
And as you said, I think everybody should read all three books when all three are out. Even if you are the grandchild, hopefully even they would read the Distant Grandparent one. But I think all three generations.
Absolutely. And they'll have a nice little box set,
Yes.
My intention was never to tell everybody to read 3 books, but I've just realized that and I never intended to write 3 books, I can tell you. It wasn't part of the plan. But I'm past the point of no return now. This has to be done because there's nothing out there.
No,
and it's really important to me.
It is
really important.
It is, and the timing is right. As I say, there's so many more families spread out across the world, and it's not just like my situation where I'm the only sibling outside of South Africa. There's, as you said, you've got family in the UK, you've got family in America, you're in New Zealand. That's becoming such commonplace, and people just need to be able to communicate properly, have empathy, understand it from each other's perspectives. It's a great book, so many insights and so many things I had certainly taken for granted, and really appreciate you highlighting and bringing back my attention to those facts. Yeah, lovely book. Really recommend it.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Helen. Thank you for joining me. It's been wonderful to chat to you, and I look forward to following the progress of all 3 books and chatting to you again very soon. I really appreciate your time. And just once again, if you want to give out your website or any other information that you wanted people to know about, please shout it out.
Yes, well, distancefamilies.com. I think you can see it there next to my name on the screen. And have a good look through there. I've put loads of information where you can get the book, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and find out what's happening in the future. Just sign up for my newsletter or plug into one of my social media platforms, and you'll be in the loop and you won't miss out. And good luck to you all with your moves. It's not easy, but I hope it goes well for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. You have a good day, and I'll speak to you soon.